Shalom and welcome back to the Ministry of Yeshua. I'm glad that you're here to learn the Word of God with us. Today we're diving into this week's portion, which is called Pekudei. We'll explore its wisdom, its beauty, and we'll see how it speaks to our lives right now. It's a much smaller portion, so the video won't be as long. We'll take up Exodus 38:21 through 40:38, which will connect us to Ezekiel 45:16 through 46:18, as well as Luke 22:1 through 13. So let's take a look at the portion summary first. Pekudei means accounts or reckonings. So named because the Torah portion begins with Moses making an accounting of the gold, silver, and copper donated by the people for the construction of the tabernacle. Moses carefully audits the whole project to determine how much was collected and how it was used. Having completed the various elements and furnishings of the tabernacle, the children of Israel turned their attention to manufacturing the priestly vestments under the direction of Bezalel and Aholiab. They make the ephod for Aaron, the apron-like garment created for clasping to the breastpiece and set with precious stones on the shoulders. They make the breastpiece with a piece folded close onto which they set the 12 precious gemstones. Each of the 12 stones corresponds to the name of one of the 12 tribes. They make the blue robe for the high priest, and they make the linen tunics, turbans, sashes, and breeches worn by all the priests. For Aaron they make a golden plate, worn on the forehead, inscribed with the words, "Holy to the Lord." Thus all the work of the tabernacle was completed. Moses inspects the work and sees that it has all been done according to the Lord's instructions. He blesses the people and assembles the tabernacle on the first day of the first month. He erects all the planks, hangs all the curtains and hangings, and places the furnishings in their proper places. He lights the altar fires, offers up the incense, lights the menorah, and anoints the tabernacle and everything in it. So Moses completes the work. The cloud of glory descends from Mount Sinai and fills the tabernacle so powerfully that even Moses cannot enter it. God makes his dwelling place among the children of Israel. And we'll take a deeper look at Pekudei, the 23rd reading from the Torah and the last reading from the book of Exodus is called Pekudei, which means accounts. The first words of the first verse of the reading could literally be translated to read, "These are the accounts, Pekudei, of the tabernacle," Exodus 38:21. The last reading from Exodus begins with an audit of how the contributions for the tabernacle were used. The portion goes on to describe the completion of the tabernacle and its assembling and concludes by depicting the glory of the Lord entering it. In most years, synagogue rigged Pekudei together with the previous portion, ECHAD. Therefore, some of the comments on this reading will be very brief, as we talked about. We're going to talk about integrity in the accounts. This is the number of the things for the tabernacle of the testimony, as they were numbered according to the command of Moses, for the service of the Levites by the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest, Exodus 38:21. As the children of Israel completed the building of the tabernacle, Moses ordered an accounting of all the donations. He did not do so because he suspected some misappropriation or malfeasance. He already knew that all the contributions has been handled with the utmost integrity. But he also knew that his reputation in handling money reflected directly on God. He had to make the audit in order to publicly demonstrate that everything had been done with complete honesty. Later in his life, Moses was able to declare, "I have not taken a single donkey from them," Numbers 16:15. I once knew a congregational leader who handled all the accounts for the congregation himself. After his deacons had counted the weekly contributions, they turned it over to him. He handled the deposits, the checkbook, and the ledgers, but he never allowed others access to those accounts. He was a God-fearing man, and in all likelihood he handled all the congregational finances honestly. But since he was not transparent in the process, his congregants always suspected that something was amiss. Stewards over the kingdom's financial resources need to be completely honest and transparent in the process of handling money. In fact, all God's children must be above reproach in financial matters. Disciples of Yeshua must be comprehensively scrupulous. Man for whom penny larceny is still a larceny. I once observed a treasurer and bookkeeper of a Messianic community spending several hours tracking down a record-keeping discrepancy of a single missing nickel. A man who is not concerned about honesty until it is in 5 figures is not honest at all. Integrity is not only measured in the big things. Little concessions are still concessions to dishonesty. For example, conveniently forgetting to report a portion of income to the IRS is still tax fraud, even if it is only a few $100s. Illegally duplicating copyrighted material or other media might save you money, but it is actually a means of theft. A person's integrity is challenged when he is given the wrong change. A man of integrity is just as concerned with the small as he is with the big. Now, a friend of ours used to work at a local kosher butcher store. He found it amusing that people always insisted that their scales are to be accurate, but no one objected if things tipped in their favor a little bit. So the butcher he worked for was careful not to cheat his customers. In keeping with the commandment to keep honest scales, the accuracy of electronic scale was checked frequently for correct calibration. The several times a day it was wiped clean, lest dust or residue should give a false reading. Once after ringing up a customer at the cash register, the customer eyed the receipt suspiciously. "You should have given me $15.25 back in change, but you only gave me $10.25. You are trying to rip me off." The butcher responded with a laugh. "If I'm going to risk my life before God for committing a grievous sin of theft, it's going to be for a lot more than $5. I assure you it was an inadvertent mistake." His point was well taken. A $5 sin is as much a sin as a $5 million sin. A man without financial integrity has no witness to offer the world and no message to proclaim, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Moreover, from the blue and purple and scarlet material they have made finely woven garments for ministering in the holy place, as well as the holy garments which were for Aaron, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Exodus 39:1. The last 2 chapters of the book of Exodus describe the making of the priestly garments and the final necessary elements before the assembly of the tabernacle. Over the course of these 2 chapters, the phrase, "just as the Lord had commanded Moses," is repeated 14 times, 7 times in chapter 39 and 7 times in chapter 40. The first 7 instances refer to the completion of the manufacturing stage, and the second 7 refers to the actual assembly of the tabernacle. The 2 series of the 7 repetitions are separated by God's commandment to assemble the tabernacle on the first day of the first month, and the twice repeated statement, "The sons of Israel did according to all that the Lord had commanded Moses, so they did." That's Exodus 39:32. So the narrative concludes with God's dwelling presence entering the tabernacle and taking up residence among the children of Israel. The 7-fold repetitions are meant to drive home the point that obedience to God's commandments results in spiritual accomplishment. Because the tabernacle was made exactly as the Lord had commanded Moses, the entire project was a success. By telling this story, the Torah is attempting to establish the principle of complete obedience to the commandments God gave through Moses. Just as Moses and the children of Israel endured to fulfill the commandments of building the tabernacle down to the smallest detail, we should have the same commitment to fulfilling God's moral and ethical laws. Sometimes it is tempting to improvise when fulfilling God's commandments. It's not the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law that's important, a person might say. In the building of the tabernacle, it was the letter of the law that was important. Now, I once was discussing the stringent details of some Torah rituals with an Orthodox rabbi. I objected that it sometimes seems, especially in Orthodox Jewish interpretation, that God's laws are mirrored in minutia. He thought about this a second and then asked, "Have you ever used the internet?" I told him I had. He asked, "When you type in a website address, what happens if you get a single letter or number wrong?" "I won't connect to the website," I answered. "Doesn't it seem like unnecessary minutia to need every letter perfect?" he asked. The analogy is not flawless. God is not an internet website, and He honors even our imperfect attempts to connect with Him. Nonetheless, it is a good illustration of the importance of taking the Bible literally and taking our observances seriously. The work is finished. Thus all the work of the tabernacle of the tent of the meeting was completed, and the sons of Israel did according to all that the Lord had commanded Moses, so they did. Exodus 39:32. The children of Israel built the tabernacle to be the holy dwelling place of God on earth. They desired the presence of God in their midst, and God desired to dwell with them. The tabernacle on earth was patterned after God's eternal dwelling place in heaven. The writer of the book of Hebrews refers to it as a copy and a shadow of a heavenly, Hebrews 8:5. He calls it a copy of the greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, which is not of this creation, Hebrews 9:11. In other words, the children of Israel were building heaven on earth. Like the Israelites, we all desire the blessing of the presence of God in our lives. Furthermore, God desires relationship with us. We want to experience heaven on earth, and we pray, "Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Matthew 6:10. Unlike the Israelites, most of us are not willing to work toward that end. We often expect that spiritual blessings should be bestowed upon us with no effort on our part. The children of Israel did not expect the tabernacle to float down from heaven. They understood that creating heaven on earth and making a suitable dwelling for God required their hard work and effort. And now let's talk about the work of our hands. Moses examined all the work, and behold, they had done it. Just as the Lord had commanded this, they had done. So Moses blessed them. Exodus 39:43. When Moses saw that the work had been completed, he turned to the children of Israel and blessed them. Rashi says that he blessed them with the final words of Psalm 90. And it says this, "Let your work appear to your servants and your majesty to their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and confirm for us the work of our hands." Yes, confirm the work of our hands. Psalm 90:16-17. Why does Rashi suppose that Moses used these words to bless the children of Israel? According to the superscription on Psalm 90, Moses composed that psalm. The final words of the psalm seems apropos to the completion of the tabernacle. Everything had been completed by the work of their hands, but Moses wanted God to confirm that work by bestowing his favor and grace. A similar sentiment is expressed in another psalm. "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it." And that's Psalm 127:1. A person might be very busy with a great many religious aspirations and pious efforts, but unless God is inspiring and blessing his work, it will ultimately prove to be fruitless. New beginnings. Now in the first month of the second year, on the first day of the month, the tabernacle was erected. Exodus 40:17. On the first day of the first month, the children of Israel assembled the tabernacle. They had been encamped at Mount Sinai for 9 months. It was just 2 weeks short of a year since the day the Lord led them out of Egypt. For the last 5 months, they had been building the tabernacle. The first day of the first month after they left Egypt proved to be a busy day. On that day, they raised the tabernacle. Moses placed all the furnishings, hung the veils, lit the menorah, placed the bread of the presence on the table, offered the incense, and lit the altar fires. Then the presence of God filled the tabernacle. On the same day, God called to Moses from within the tabernacle, giving him the instructions for the sacrifices and the priesthood, recorded in the first several chapters of Leviticus. On the same day, Moses began the ordination of Aaron and his sons into the priesthood. On the same day, the prince of the tribe of Judah offered a gift for the dedication of the altar. The first day of the new month is marked by the appearance of the new moon, and the biblical calendar is a lunar calendar. The first day of the month is always a new moon. The 15th day of the month is a full moon. On the last day of the month, the moon disappears from the sky, and the next day it reappears as a new moon, marking the beginning of another biblical month. If you guys also didn't know, the children of Israel are always accluded to be the moon, and the other nations as the sun. That's a very also interesting point. And the new moon of the first month, the month of Nisan, also marks the beginning of New Year according to the agricultural reckoning. It is the month of springtime, the month of new growth. It is also the month of Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The annual rehearsal of Israel's salvation from Egypt. The new moon uniquely symbolizes the experience of being born again. Jewish prayer speaks of us as being one day renewed like the moon. This is especially true regarding the new moon of the first month. Just as the tabernacle was assembled on the first day of the first month, when a person is born again, it's like dying to the old and starting over with a new life, a foretaste of the resurrection from the dead. Just as Moses received the instruction for the sacrifices and the priesthood on the first day, the new believer is ready to receive the instruction of God, learn to worship Him, and enter into His sacred service. Just as the altar was dedicated on the first day of the first month by the prince of the tribe of Judah, the new believer is dedicated by the gift of the Messiah, the prince from the tribe of Judah. The Shekinah. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Exodus 40:34. The tabernacle was finally complete. The cloud of glory that had led the children of Israel out of Egypt and rested upon Mount Sinai moved from the mountain and settled onto the tabernacle. The dwelling place of God filled His tabernacle. In what sense did God dwell inside the tabernacle? How can the infinite God fit inside an finite space? Early Judaism explained this apparent contradiction by referring to the dwelling presence of God as a manifestation of His being, but not the infinite totality of God. The early sages referred to God's dwelling presence as His Shekinah, which means divine presence. This Hebrew word has been imported into contemporary Christian vocabulary and is spoken of in some circles as the Shekinah glory. The Hebrew word Shekinah is derived from the verb shachan, which means to dwell. The word that our English Bibles regularly translate as tabernacle is a Hebrew word built from the same verbal root mishkan, and the word that means a dwelling place. The Shekinah is God's dwelling presence, that aspect of God that takes up residence on earth. In the days of Moses, the Shekinah of God filled the cloud of glory as He led the hosts of Israel out of Egypt. In the cloud, He rested on the top of Mount Sinai while giving the Torah to Moses until the tabernacle was completed. In the days of King Solomon, the Shekinah of God was seen entering the new temple in Jerusalem. And it says this: the cloud filled the house of the Lord so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud. For the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. 1 Kings 8:10-11. Just before the destruction of Jerusalem, the prophet Ezekiel saw a vision of the Shekinah of God leaving the temple in the presence of His holy cherubim. In the book of Acts, the Shekinah returned to the temple with the sound of a rushing wind and settled on the disciples in tongues of fire. In synagogue, when a book of Torah is finished, it is customary for the congregation to all declare together, Be strong, and maybe be strengthened. And that's about it for today, guys. I told you it'll be quite short, so thank you so much for watching. If this message blessed you, please like the video and subscribe. It will help the message to reach more people who need encouragement and truth. And feel free to follow our Instagram, linked in the comments for daily inspiration, as well as daily prayers. May God bless you and keep you. May He shine His light on you and be gracious to you. May He turn towards you and grant you peace. Grace and shalom to you all.